All right, we're back. Appreciate everybody for being here. Please give it a thumbs up on your way in. Before we get started, I do want to give a special thanks to Julie for your PayPal donation. As you guys know, I can't email people for whatever reason through PayPal. So I'm just going to thank people on air at the beginning of each stream. And also, I want to take the time to thank everybody who is a member of the channel, people who are Patreon followers and subscribers, people that are consistently helping to support the channel. You guys are amazing. You help the channel grow. So I just want to appreciate you guys for that. Now, I know I've been absent for a couple days, kind of MIA. People probably like, what's going on? Well, I guess the short answer is sometimes you need more than a weekend. The weekends are times where I try to like unplug completely, even though I'm not fully able to do it. I mean, this is my full-time job. So I'm always in tune, always connected. But after the weekend, sometimes, every once in a while, actually, it's more often than not now, the weekend isn't really enough. It's like, do I pick up where I left off from last week? Sometimes I need a little extra time to recalibrate, not only understand what this is all about, why I'm doing what I'm doing, but also my role. I don't have the biggest following. So, what I have to say doesn't reach as many people as I would like it to, but I'm also grateful for the people that it does reach. But then also, so much of this human experience right now is just, it's unbelievable. It's hard to even like articulate and put it into words sometimes. Sometimes you feel really fired up and passionate and um, motivated, optimistic. And then other times it's just flat out discouraging. You're like, man, are people ever going to see they're being played? And so I was kind of wrestling back and forth with that. And so I just needed an extra day, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. So I did a couple pre-recorded yesterday. And coincidentally, the one that I felt was the most important was the one about the Florida teenagers in one county that are getting essentially slaps on the wrist for serious crimes. And that's kind of where it starts. I feel like that's important because that's a microcosm of how chaotic society is right now, where the next generation is learning that they're not really going to be punished for their crimes. Like they can skate by. In the era of TikTok and Instagram and social media, you can threaten people. I mean, the message is very clear from even a red county. People say Volusia County is blue. No, Volusia, I double checked. It's a red county. But even in a red county and a law and order state, you can have um, an environment that fosters delinquency. And it's just crazy to me. That's what kind of spirals out of control. Next thing you know, you got career criminals on your hands. Anyway, I just felt like that video was very important. And for whatever reason, it just those kinds of videos don't get the kind of views that I think they should. And that's kind of another dilemma too, right? I'm always looking for positive news stories, positive, to try to offset the negative news stories. But the truth of the matter is kind of the nature of the beast is the negative news stories garner more attention. People want to know what's actually going on in their world, because it's kind of like, what is a threat to your safety, your sovereignty, your peace? And if we don't highlight that, I don't know. It's just kind of, it's a weird thing. It's an internal dialogue. I'm working through it, but I'm happy you guys are here. I appreciate you all. Please make sure that you give it a thumbs up. And before we get to today's topics, kind of along the lines of what I'm dealing with here, let me take a sip of water. I want to read this serenity prayer because this really, I should read this every morning when I get up because it really just defines so much of the dilemma I feel with everything we're going through, right? So many of you know this one. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I think that's so important because for me, it's really hard when you look at this Kyle Rittenhouse trial. We're waiting for the verdict any minute now. I'm assuming that it's going to be today since they began deliberations yesterday. Closing arguments were the day before, I think. I can't even keep up anymore. But anyway, so much rides on the verdict of this case. This case is so huge. Not only is the country watching, I think the world is watching because we're on a brink of another collapse. Like this could easily be as big as last year, if you can even imagine that, as far as civil unrest, violence, riots, just total disregard for human life and chaos. And it's crazy that there are so many people I know, probably people you know, who are completely unaware of Kyle Rittenhouse's innocence. I mean, just purely if you take politics out of it, take your emotions out of it, take your bias out of it, the truth has to prevail here. Because if the truth doesn't prevail, if the right thing doesn't happen, which means a full acquittal, then I have no faith in our justice system. Like if this happens, I mean, you think about it, your ability to defend yourself is on the line. Self-defense is on the line here. Law and order is on the line here. The right to a fair trial is on the line here. You know? And so I just feel like there's so many people who don't see it. There's so much that's outside of my control. And I need to have the discernment and wisdom to know what can I focus on, because if you just look at everything going on, it can be completely overwhelming. You look at it, you're like, damn, what do I do? How do I take this on? You know, and in reality, focus on your sphere of influence. Bring it all home, right? Focus on the people that you talk to directly. Say, hey, did you know about this? Have you seen this article? Have you considered this slant? So many people that I know think that this is a white supremacist murderer, a domestic terrorist who crossed state lines. They have to make that a huge deal. He crossed state lines. Oh my gosh, he went from Kansas City, Kansas to Kansas City, Missouri. He crossed over the river, the Missouri River. That's crossing state lines. You know, the way that they can frame an argument to make it seem bigger than it is, just as an example of how this has been totally blown out of proportion, everything that they said he did, and completely lied about him. And there are people that I know that still believe these lies. They do not understand the extent to which the media has deceived them. And because of that, they don't even know that the people he killed were white. They think that this was a white supremacist terrorist attack, domestic vigilante, all those smears that they have thrown Kyle Rittenhouse's way. And so it's just so frustrating that people continue to believe lies. I don't know if you guys got a chance to check out the live stream or podcast that took place last night with some heavy hitters. Man, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, Luke Radowski from We Are Change, big personalities all on one podcast. That was pretty good. It was solid. And they made a lot of great points in there with how dishonest the media is, how people can be just engulfed in a completely different worldview based on the information they consume, and how that information that they consume is carefully curated, strategically released, promoted, everything down to the headline in terms of what people believe is true. There's so much spiritual activity at play here, and it's playing out right in front of our very eyes. The physical manifestation, you can see it in this Kyle Rittenhouse trial. You can see it in the courtroom. You can see it in the prosecutor. You can see it in the media as they cover this, right? Demonic forces at work, people that are just consumed by pure evil to destroy someone with vicious lies, complete lies, defending a convicted pedophile who sodomized a 5-year-old, calling him the victim, a martyr. That's the level of deception and lies that we are dealing with, that we are up against. It takes something to possess you, to overcome your body, your consciousness, for you to look into a camera and lie to people about what someone is, what they've done, who they are. And when you have the kind of following as people like Joy Reid and people on CNN and people from the New York Times, they are reaching millions across the world. And for just the casual observer, the person that maybe they don't place enough value on the truth, they're not looking into it for themselves. They're thinking Kyle Rittenhouse went to Kenosha and killed peaceful, unarmed BLM protesters. That's what happened. He killed black people. The only reason you have black protesters and black people invested in this case, for the most part, is because there's an element of white supremacy that's been tied to this. And they keep telling us that white supremacy is the greatest threat that we all face. No black person who's honest with themselves can truly believe that. You cannot truly believe that white supremacy is the greatest existential threat to your life, your safety, your well-being, your health. And yet people are actually buying into this. So they're invested in this, not knowing that all the people involved in this case are white. But if you take race out of it and just look at the case itself, the facts of the case, self-defense. They're worried about Kyle Rittenhouse crossing state lines, not worried about the protesters, rioters. Let's call them what they are, rioters who cross state lines. And so the media has just set this whole situation up now for an innocent verdict, that he will be not guilty. They're setting the stage for more riots. That's why they've slandered the judge. They're saying, this is tampered with. He obviously voted for Trump, as if that somehow makes a difference. They've made it. They're basically dumping gasoline and kindling on this ember that's burning, and it's about to explode into flames. It really is. And that's unfortunate, because it should be us all breathing a sigh of relief. Like, whew, there are still good people out there. The pressure, they did not cave to the pressure of people standing outside of the courthouse. They rendered the right verdict. They went with their conscience, the evidence, the facts, what they knew was true. We should be able to breathe a sigh of relief and know that we still have a few good apples out there, right? It just seems like all of our institutions we can't trust. We can't trust our elections. We cannot trust the FBI and law enforcement, which I will get into in the stream as well. We cannot trust the media to provide us factual, authentic, nonpartisan, just straight up facts, straight talk information, and let us decide. We can't rely on that anymore. The only reason that Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be, hopefully, I'm praying, hopefully acquitted, is because of citizen journalists, because of surveillance on your phone. The facts are on his side. It's backed up by video evidence. I mean, the prosecution case, they tampered with evidence. They tried to deceive the media. The press is trying to deceive the public. So that way, if and when he's acquitted, riots will ensue, civil unrest, racial tension, where none exists. Literally no racial tension exists in this case whatsoever. They're tying it to another criminal that they defended, Jacob Blake. This entire thing happened because Jacob Blake, a criminal, tried to kidnap his kid, wouldn't listen to police, had a knife, got shot because he didn't listen to police while being dangerous. And then you had riots. Kyle Rittenhouse goes to defend property and people, and then he's the villain. Do you see how this all just spiraled out of control? And now they're setting it up for more riots, more burning buildings, potentially another situation that led us to the point we're in right now. It's almost like we're at the end of a cycle, and what the media wants most is this cycle to repeat itself. Why? Because it helps their ratings. It puts more money in their pockets. The political party they're affiliated with, aligned with, it helps them to capitalize on power. It helps to destabilize an already basically dysfunctional country. So nobody benefits from this except for the ones that are keeping this going, keeping the lies up. And so It's just so hard when you have people that are just not even remotely interested in looking into this for themselves. They'll read a New York Times headline, they'll see something in Yahoo, Time Magazine, maybe they'll listen to a Trevor Noah clip or whatever it is that they are consuming, and it's all just one ecosystem of the same narrative, which is lies. A white supremacist, domestic terrorist, vigilante who was defending himself. You know what's crazy? I was just watching a documentary last night, actually, about the history of self-defense since like the 90s, right? And coincidentally, this is the one of Tucker Carlson's originals. Talked about the rooftop Koreans in 1992, I think it was, during the Rodney King riots, where Americans were they knew that they were allowed to defend themselves, and that's what those rooftop Koreans did to defend their business against rioters. Then fast forward to 2005 after Hurricane Katrina. Do you guys know? I did not know this until last night. I have no idea how I didn't know this. They went door to door to confiscate firearms from law-abiding citizens in the wake of Hurricane Katrina so they couldn't defend themselves against rioters, home invasions. Think about what happens after a hurricane. People will go and break into houses for food and resources and whatever else. And they were going door to door confiscating firearms in the United States of America, something you would not think is possible here. And it already happened. And that was in 2005. So that's, again, bringing it back to this case. If he is somehow convicted on these charges that are completely bogus, what does that say for the future? For the next time something happens in one of these cities or one of these areas where there's a black dude who breaks the law, gets shot, and the media calls it white supremacy and racism, and then you have riots all over again. Innocent people get attacked. You have another Kyle Rittenhouse situation, somebody trying to step up and defend innocent people when law enforcement is nowhere to be found. And then you have this entire situation again. It's just really scary times we're living in. And I feel so fortunate to be in a place where, I'm not going to necessarily have to deal with it. If I were still living in a liberal city, a giant city, who knows? You never know where the next situation, it could happen right outside your doorstep. Next thing you know, you got BLM and Antifa outside. You got all this chaos and disruption, and you have to defend yourself because, at least if you're white, you're going to be called a white supremacist terrorist if you defend yourself. And so, yeah, it's just, man, I don't know, but we're going to find out at the time of this live stream as we're watching. I don't know. I'm going to check periodically through the stream to see if we have a verdict, and you guys can let me know in the comments too. I'll get those pulled up. If there has been a verdict, I have no idea when it's going to happen, but I'm hoping it's going to be today because I want to move on from this. I want closure, essentially. I want closure. I want the right thing to happen. And I'm hoping that cooler heads prevail, right? The right thing to happen would be he's fully acquitted. And unfortunately, there'd probably be some kind of civil unrest. Probably. I don't know. I don't imagine it being a smooth situation after, at least in Kenosha. Maybe elsewhere it won't be as bad, but other cities, they're already in like chaos. They've already declined. They're already at like rock bottom, places where they have organized retail crime, broad daylight stabbings, rapes on trains in like Philadelphia, crazy stuff that again, the human experience right now it's tremendous, and it's so heavy, it's so dark. We have to continue to shine light on this and hope that others will see it. That's really all I can say about the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Just that prosecutor, man. How evil is this prosecutor? Holding up the AR-15 with his hand on the trigger, pointing it at the jury. Think about how symbolic that is. As the jury is pretty much being threatened. I think the reason why they're still in deliberation is because they're probably terrified. How could it not be cut and dry? How could they think about the Derek Chauvin trial? That was quick. The deliberation on that was quick. This deliberation is taking a little bit longer than it should. And I wonder if it's because people are afraid for their lives. Because you had people doxing them. People, like, how are they even leaving the courthouse? Are they like going through some underground tunnel? Are they sneaking out? Are they covering their heads? Like, how are those jurors being protected? That's how crazy this case is. If you're a juror in that case, how do you conceal your identity? How hard would it be for some people to stand around the corner and try to get, a photograph of somebody walking out to their car, or get into a suburban and being driven away and then followed? I just wonder, if you were a juror. I'm gonna put this on you guys. Let me get the chat pulled up really quick, because I think this is very interesting. And thank you for the super chat to I can't read that name, but thanks. You said, Mike, you rock. Thank you for the super chat. Here's a question I want to pose to you guys right now. Also got a super chat. No, that was DM. Thank you, DM, for becoming a member. I want to pose this question to you guys. If you were a juror in this case and your life was on the line, you knew Rittenhouse was innocent, you knew what you needed to do, but your family and your life were being threatened by the mob outside. Like, hey, we know where your kids go to school. We know where your mother lives. We know where your nieces go to school. We know where your family likes to hang out on weekends. You better do the right thing, or we're coming after you. And the media backs it. Politicians back it. You know that self-defense is not something that's even in question for you, because you're overseeing a trial where they're trying to prosecute someone for defending themselves. Your life is on the line. Your family's safety is at risk. And you know that the right thing to do would be to acquit Kyle Rittenhouse. What would you do? Type a 1 if you would put the truth first and your family's safety at risk, or the other way around. Would you sacrifice Kyle Rittenhouse? Put a 2. All right. A 1 if you would acquit Kyle Rittenhouse, and a 2 if you would convict him, based on where your situation is. If your family's life was at risk. This is going to be very telling. I'm very curious what people would do. Again, 1 if you would tell the truth unapologetically and acquit Kyle Rittenhouse, and a 2 if you would put your family's safety first and make him pay the price. I'm seeing a lot of 1s. Thank God I'm not seeing any 2s. I see 1s. So good. This is so reassuring to see. Now, I can only hope that the jury in this case, because I'm sure they've received some amount of threats. At the very least, people probably know who they are, or they know people that know them. I believe they'll live in Kenosha, so it's going to be hard. Somebody put a 2, just kidding. I don't think it's that. I couldn't laugh at it. No. I agree with you. I would do, for me, it'd be a 1. It would absolutely be a 1, because my faith that I would be protected for doing the right thing. So that's good. Okay. Whew, that actually makes me feel a lot better. I was wondering if there would be a handful of 2s out there, because, I mean, think about it. They're threatening your family. Remember, your family safety, your children, your grandchildren, your spouse, your loved ones would be threatened. So that's good. Yes, that's what we need. We need people who have courage and faith to do the right thing. So I love to see that. Yes. Okay. Now we can move on. We spent enough time on this topic. There'll be plenty more to say regarding this trial. Sure enough, we're going to move on to Merrick Garland and the FBI using counterterrorism tactics to target parents who oppose school boards overseeing the indoctrination and the sexualization of their children. Now, this is from an FBI whistleblower who released some documents, and there were terms used in there called like threat tags. If you look at counterterrorism, just I pulled up what it actually means. It's also known as anti-terrorism. It incorporates the practice, military tactics, techniques, and strategy that government, military, law enforcement, business, and intelligence agencies use to combat or prevent terrorism. Now, we knew that Merrick Garland was mobilizing the FBI to go after parents standing up to these school boards, but the fact that they are using tools, counterterrorism tools, including like threat tags to stalk parents, this is again why we cannot trust our law enforcement. Federal law enforcement simply cannot be trusted. And that's a scary proposition. That's scary. You cannot trust the federal law enforcement, the bureaucracy that is the FBI. If the wrong person is in power, or you have rogue actors within the ranks, they can engage in all kinds of these counter-terrorist measures to snuff out opposition. People that are using their voice to stand up for their freedom, for their liberty, to protect their children. And Merrick Garland's just sitting there. You know what's funny about this whole Merrick Garland situation? Democrats are mad that Merrick Garland is acting in a nonpartisan manner. They don't think that he is acting in a partisan manner. They basically want him to be what they criticize Bill Barr for being. Bill Barr is just Trump's yes man. Man, if that were actually true, we might have gotten some more arrests, some high profile arrests, if that were actually true. So it's crazy that they don't think Merrick Garland is on their side enough, as Merrick Garland is not looking into the actual threats that we have on camera, threats against parents, threats against the mayor of New York City, talking about bloodshed, that BLM activists in New York City. The FBI is not investigating in that. You know what they're doing? They're shaking down Project Veritas. They're targeting just everyday average Joes out there trying to defend their children, trying to protect their children under the guise of protecting school boards. And this is a memo that Merrick Garland got. What was that, like last month sometime? When we first found out that they were going to use the FBI to go after parents that go to these school board meetings and supposedly make all these threats to school board members. We got school board members on camera saying F you to parents. You see how this is so just twisted? They're going after people who aren't terrorists at all. Talk about a misuse of force. Talk about a waste of resources, when they can actually snuff out real terrorist threats, like the ones that are potentially coming across the southern border, the ones that potentially have flown here from Afghanistan completely unvetted. They were going, or you could maybe look at BLM and Antifa, the people that actually burned down, destroyed, annihilated cities last year. No FBI investigation. It's such a joke. It's such a joke that it's actually not a joke. You don't laugh at it, but it's a joke to think that this is the Federal Bureau of Investigations and they're investigating a news organization, a damn good one, in Project Veritas, that's actually working to expose their corruption. Funny how that works, right? Investigating, they're over the target. They've exposed Pfizer. They've exposed corruption in the FDA. They're exposing the Biden regime. We're supposed to just forget about Ashley Biden's diary there, right? We're just supposed to talk about misdirection. Let's focus on Project Veritas and not people saying locked and loaded. It's like, hey, there's this giant elephant in the room and you want to move around the elephant and try to get the person in the corner. Let's just ignore that. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And will he be held accountable? No. Will Republicans grill him for sound bites on social media? Of course they will. And plenty of people say, look, Ted Cruz totally just took him to the woodshed. It was crazy. but it's like nothing happens. Will he resign? Will he be held accountable? Will anybody be held accountable? We can only hope. We can only hope that one day the people who are doing the most damage, the people with the most power, who are using their power not for your best interests, but to actually destroy your life, the people with the most power, we can only hope that one day they will be brought to heel, brought to justice. You know, it shouldn't be Kyle Rittenhouse on trial right now. It really shouldn't. You think about all of the corrupt politicians that have been in government 50 years who have, you know, made their deal with the devil to do everything that they've done to make everyone's lives miserable, march us towards permanent enslavement, like what they're using COVID for. We all know it's happening. Only some people want to pretend that this is under the guise of public safety. But, you know, those people should actually be on trial. Not parents at school board saying, hey, can we maybe get that pornographic book out of the library? Maybe don't tell my kid that they were born racist or that they were born a victim and they're oppressed and they can't do anything because of the way they were born. Maybe don't do that. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe you shouldn't indoctrinate kids. So I say, man, it's so spiritual. It's psychological warfare. It's spiritual warfare. It's really hard to continue talking about this on a daily basis, but that's the world we're in. And I feel like I'm here not because I chose to be here. I was chosen to be here. This was not the path that I even imagined myself being on. I'm blessed. I'm grateful to be here, but there's a reason why I'm here right now. There's a reason why I was chosen to be a father right now. There's a reason you're here right now. There's a reason we're all here right now. And this is a great awakening against a great reset, a total collapse of humanity, our planet. You know, they're destroying everything. The environment's being destroyed. Let me try to stay on task here. I could really just go, we'll get there towards the end. I want to talk about some more of the Black victimhood mentality, especially surrounding this Rittenhouse trial. I told you, Black people have been roped into this Rittenhouse trial because they've sprinkled on the element of white supremacy. That is their favorite thing now. White supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy. So Cori Bush recalls in Ferguson during the Michael Brown chaos, white supremacists shooting at her in 2014. Even though that was thoroughly debunked, she still told that lie, hasn't retracted it yet. Crazy, crazy person. She's a crazy person. And what the subtext of her lie is, you know, there's currency in being a victim. If you can recall that time that you were a victim to white supremacy, you help reinforce the justification for why we need to basically destroy people by the color of their skin and destroy this country and rebuild it in an equitable way. So Cori Bush is a part of that. She loves to be a puppet for the Marxist agenda to destroy the country and the people living here. You know, a lot of people think that what Cori Bush is doing is noble. She's out there fighting against the corruption in Washington, D.C., and she's trying to make the country a better place. See, the people that are on this side think that there's something for them in the end. They think that they will have a better life if they were able to successfully derail capitalism and, you know, in apartheid style fashion, confiscate wealth and resources from people who earned it and give it to people who haven't earned it. They think that they're going to be better off. So, you know, Cori Bush saying this complete lie that she was shot at by white supremacists because that gets her some clout. At the very least, it generates headlines for herself, and she could just be saying it for shock value, knowing it's a lie. We know AOC does that a lot. A lot of the stupid statements she makes are for shock value to trigger right wingers. But this speaks to the level of dishonesty that these black politicians especially have, because for her to talk about how racist and white supremacist everything is, you're an elected member of Congress. You're one of the most powerful people on earth because you are working in one of the most the most powerful government on earth. and you somehow are oppressed and you're pushing this false narrative that white supremacists shot at you with no evidence. It's a complete lie. It was actually I think it was actually debunked. A black dude was the person that shot at her, supposedly shot at her, but it's just a complete lie. And this victimhood is virtuous narrative is so stale, and it's so damaging psychologically. Here's another story right here from Oregon. Black employees should get time off after the Rittenhouse verdict. This is an Oregon Democrat politician. Black employees should get time off after the Rittenhouse verdict? Why? Make that make sense. Here's the tweet from Gregory McKelvey. Employers, consider giving your Black employees a day or two off after the Rittenhouse verdict. Regardless of the outcome, it's going to be hard for Black people to work, and it isn't fair to expect them to. So because of your skin color, you're not able to deal with the reality that Kyle Rittenhouse was innocent and may be acquitted of his charges. Because of your skin color, something that doesn't affect you is going to make it impossible for you to go earn a living. Talk about promoting Black fragility. And this is completely false, by the way. I'm not affected by this. And even if I were on his side politically, there's no way that I would be missing an opportunity to make some money, earn a living, pay my bills because of some court case. Oh, I just can't bear. I can't go to work because of this situation in Kenosha, Wisconsin, thousands of miles away from me. I can't deal. I got to take a personal day because I can't deal with somebody being let free who shouldn't have been prosecuted in the first place. But even if I did think he should have been prosecuted, I would still go to work the next day. This is sad. And so, of course, this person, this politician, is getting completely roasted on Twitter for this. This is just completely ridiculous. Companies can and should look inward to directly address the cumulative depleting effects of systemic racism on Black employees, says the Black politician in a majority white state. I digress. The Harvard Business Review said anti-racism efforts are incomplete and may exacerbate racial trauma and fatigue if recovery is absent. We also recognize that for so many Black employees, recovery can't wait. Although it may not be possible to fully heal from an ongoing trauma, both managers and employees can start creating space for recovery and resilience today. See, to me, this is the soft bigotry of low expectations. This, to me, is racism, if there ever was. The very idea that you're Black, you need special treatment. You can't deal with the reality of the world. Let's give you a personal day. Let's give you a safe space to exist in. Let's create an artificial bubble of fantasy so that you don't have to deal with the harsh reality of the world like the rest of us. Black people don't know how to deal with that. That's what it seems like. This seems like some condescending, racist BS from the left. And it's completely just, it's so insulting, so deeply insulting and troubling. Anybody that takes this seriously, that believes it, and this is a politician, this isn't just some rando person. This is somebody with a political pull, at least in Oregon, making statements like this, expecting to be taken seriously to the point where the Harvard Business Review is looking into it and making cases for and Black employers or Black employees to get days off because we lack the mental capacity to deal with the real world. Give me a break. This is ridiculous. Yes, this is a real freaking tweet. Gregory McKivey. McKivey? I don't know how to pronounce it. You guys know how I am with names. But that's crazy. That is clown world. Peak level clown world, but also just massively deceptive, also very extremely embarrassing. Dude ought to be ashamed of himself. Moving on. There was a professor at Old Dominion University who sympathized with pedophiles and had this to say. I don't know if you know about it, but I'm going to play it. It's so beyond cringe, but if you haven't heard it yet, you're going to hear it now.
So much for that question. I use the term minor attracted person or MAP in the title and throughout the book for multiple reasons. First of all, because I think it's important to use terminology for groups that members of that group want others to use for them. And MAP advocacy groups like Before You Act have advocated for use of the term MAP. They've advocated for it primarily because it's less stigmatizing than other terms like pedophile. A lot of people, when they hear the term pedophile, they automatically assume that it means a sex offender. And that isn't true, and it leads to a lot of misconceptions about attractions toward minors. I've definitely heard the idea that you brought up, though, that the use of the term minor attracted person suggests that it's okay to be attracted to children. But using a term that communicates who someone is attracted to doesn't indicate anything about the morality of that attraction.
Now, the only good news about this situation, this assistant professor at Old Dominion, is Old Dominion has suspended this person. And I say person because it is a trans person. Of course, trying to normalize pedophilia, normalizing the attraction of adults to children. Disgusting. But Old Dominion, on November 16th, Old Dominion University has placed Dr. Alan Walker on administrative leave, effective immediately, from their position as assistant professor. Notice how they said their position? I don't know if that is a man or a woman. I honestly don't. It's hard to tell from the video. So that's the only reason I'm saying that person. Anyway, from their position as assistant professor of sociology and criminal justice. Reactions to Dr. Walker's research and book, because there's a book on this, which is an important detail I didn't mention. Research and book have led to concerns for their safety and that of the campus. Furthermore, the controversy over Dr. Walker's research has disrupted the campus and community environment and is interfering with the institution's mission of teaching and learning. And then somebody made a statement. I want to state in the strongest terms possible that child sexual abuse is morally wrong and has no place in our society, said the president. This is a challenging time for our university, but I'm confident that we will come together and move forward as a monarch family. The actions we are taking today are motivated by our obligation to maintain a safe and conducive learning environment for our students, faculty, and staff. Translation, we're doing damage control because this person decided to say the quiet part out loud and put it on social media. They're emboldened. They're saying it on camera because they're emboldened. They feel like the right people are on their side and support their agenda to sexualize children, normalize what we all know is completely wrong, completely, unequivocally wrong. Minor attracted person because it's not as derogatory as pedophile. And this isn't new. We saw the TED Talk from, I think it was like maybe 2015 or 2014, where the woman was suggesting in a TED Talk, I haven't listened to TED Talk since, but she suggested in her TED Talk that pedophilia should be reclassified as a sexual orientation. It's okay to be attracted to children so long as you do not act on it. They're trying to move this forward. They're trying to normalize it. We've come a long way from same-sex marriages. Just the right to get married. Now it's pedophilia should be a sexual orientation. We should not stigmatize pedophiles. We should not stigmatize people who haven't acted on. They're just a minor attracted person. So props to Old Dominion, I suppose, for putting this person on administrative leave. That's only because the cat's out of the bag because they said it on a video. But that's what's going on there. Somebody who is researching and writing books about why we should normalize pedophilia. That's what's happening at these institutions. Disconnect from this beast system right now. Disconnect. Pull your kids out of school. There's no reason for them to go through this, especially at a university. We have to pay for it. Unbelievable. But they continue. Shout out libs of TikTok to expose this. As we speak right now, there is some cocky college professor or elementary school teacher making a TikTok video bragging about indoctrinating kids. Right now, somebody's doing that on TikTok as we speak. Good. Let them do it. Let all of this darkness come to light so it can be exposed, so people can see what's really happening. It's no longer fringe. Tell your friends and family. That's like, why are you bringing that up? That's just right wingers cherry picking stuff. It's so fringe. It's not fringe. It's coming out of Old Dominion University. It's coming out of school boards. There are books in libraries. Drag Queen Story Hour. That is a thing that's happening from Houston to Minneapolis to Los Angeles to New York City. It's happening nationwide. And again, this is the evil that needs to be rooted out. So no matter what you think about TikTok, these teachers and these indoctrinators are using TikTok to tell you what they're doing. And they're getting exposed for it. So for no other reason, this is why you should support TikTok. I know it's Chinese spyware. I get all that. Hey, they're putting their videos out for the world to see. Hey, here's what we think. Here's what we're doing. I'm going to make my student like pledge allegiance to the pride flag over there. We're taking down the American flag and putting up the pride flag. We're taking kids to a gay bar in Miami. This stuff keeps coming out. It keeps getting exposed. That's a good thing. The light is coming out. The light is shining on this darkness. The darkness can only exist in the absence of light. So that's why we bring it to light. That's why I'm covering it. It's dark and disgusting as it is. If you're cringing over it, it's good. That means that you have a conscience. You have a soul. You feel some type of way about it. You're not writing it off. This is good. That's a good thing. Now, moving on to a prophet, the prophet of our time, the Nostradamus of our time, Bill Gates. From Yahoo News on November 4th, Bill Gates warns of smallpox terrorist attack and urges leaders to use germ games to prepare. Fast forward to November 16th, just in, FBI and CDC are investigating questionable vials labeled smallpox found at Merck facility near Philadelphia. Now, that's not at an airport where Bill Gates said that this would all happen, and it was in a controlled lab, but they found a vial labeled smallpox. How does Bill Gates have such amazing foresight? He can just see the future, man. He should just do palm reading or something. Bill Gates just happens to know, kind of like Event 201. He just happened to know that a coronavirus outbreak would happen sooner than later. So did Fauci. Kind of interesting how Fauci said that Trump would have to deal with some kind of surprise pandemic outbreak. Very interesting. But here's the story from Bill Gates's mouth on November 8th.
And so I'm hoping in 5 years I can write a book called, We Are Ready for the Next Pandemic. But it'll take tens of billions in R&D that the US and the UK will be part of that. It'll take probably about $1 billion a year for a pandemic task force at the WHO level, which is doing the surveillance and actually doing what I call germ games, where you practice. You say, okay, what if a bioterrorist brought smallpox to 10 airports? How would the world respond to that?
What if a bioterrorist brought smallpox to 10 airports? 10 airports. Just very oddly specific number. What if it happened? Sounds a lot like Event 201. What if this happened? How would we plan for it? We need to basically expand the WHO and open up a pandemic task force, which is going to cost billions of dollars a year. So basically, we're going to need to take taxpayer money. We're going to need to centralize public health policy on a global scale and have a global solution to, pandemic solutions. That's what Bill Gates just told you right there. Again, November 8th, but everything is a coincidence. I know. I used to be friends with somebody who lived in Minnesota. He calls everything a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. You're just going down the rabbit hole too much, Mike. It's too much of a coincidence. Crazy. So yeah, Bill Gates, amazing foresight. I have no idea how he just happened to warn of a smallpox terror attack, and now they found a vial of smallpox, or at least it's labeled smallpox. Stay tuned. There's probably more to come with this, but make no mistake about it. We're at the end of 2021, next year, 2022, an election year where it's very obvious that Democrats have no momentum going into 2022. They have to do something. Some things are going to have to just magically appear and happen for them to regain momentum, trust of the swing voters, the independents, people that would otherwise come to their senses and realize Democrats are trying to destroy them. But if you get people in a situation where they're desperate, where they're in fear, they will easily surrender all their freedom for the illusion of safety. And that's why they have to keep the fear going. They have to fearmonger. So, warning of a smallpox terror attack right before the beginning of an election year seems right on schedule. Bravo, Bill Gates, for your amazing, your ability to see what's coming in the future. Moving on. Unvaccinated adults, more than 3 times as likely to lean Republican, KFF analysis. So you see what they're trying to do with this. They're trying to frame the unvaccinated as aligning with a political party. So conflating the two. If you're unvaccinated, it's because you're Republican. Not that it's a coincidence that you're a Republican. Not that you are in favor of the right to choose and you personally haven't chosen to get vaccinated. It's just that you're Republican. And it's also to frame Democrats as being the party of science, the party of reason, the party of public health, and the greater good. That's what it is. And so this article explains that the data that they pulled, a Republican is 26 percentage points more likely than a Democrat to have not received a COVID-19 shot. Political partisanship serves as a better predictor for COVID-19 vaccination status than other demographic factors such as age, race, education, insurance status, the data showed. Or that's what you want to portray with the data that you've collected, because the one big thing that jumps out is, how do you explain Black people that have not been vaccinated? If you were to break it down on racial lines, then you couldn't make it about ideology, because there are plenty of more Black people unvaccinated than vaccinated. I believe that might be true for Hispanics as well. So it's not surely just right-wing GOP misinformation or just leading people to it's Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones and the right-wingers that are anti-science, right? That's the message they're trying to portray here at this article. Ignore all the other reasons that people have chosen not to get the shot. It's purely a partisan situation. Look at the red states. The red states are least vaccinated than the blue states. Well, one of the big reasons for that could be that blue states are basically forcing you to get it. They're creating an environment where you can't go anywhere unless you've gotten the shot. So yes, naturally, if you force people and they have to eat food to live, they're going to succumb. Unfortunately, they'll succumb and say, yes, I'll get it. That seems like a great reason to inject my body with this Pfizer product, because I need to eat food. Not for my own health. It's because someone told me to do it. And if I want to participate in society and have a normal life, I need to have my body injected with this thing. Crazy. But yeah, it's just a partisan thing. It's just Republicans don't want to get vaccinated. It's not, don't pay attention to the fact that a lot of Black people don't want to get it. Not because of right-wing GOP misinformation. There's this little thing called the Tuskegee experiment, and there's other reasons not to trust the CDC, the World Health Organization, and Fauci specifically. The people that are lying to you on purpose on a daily basis. Why is Fauci? You notice Fauci and Bill Gates, then I'll move on. Fauci and Bill Gates are back in front of the cameras again. After all of the turmoil, Bill Gates was quiet for a long time, going through that divorce, and now he's back talking again. Fauci is talking again, saying that we need to change the definition of fully vaccinated until you get the booster shot, but also beware of a winter wave that's coming. Fear mongering right before Christmas, sending all the mixed signals, to keep people in a fog and chaos and confusion. If you're fully vaccinated, I would think that you could have a normal Thanksgiving and Christmas with your friends and family who are also fully vaccinated, but also you're not fully vaccinated until you get the booster shot, and your immunity is starting to wane, and we need to be careful of this winter surge that's coming. Both those things came out of Fauci's mouth. People are just crazy for still listening to them. And we're just, again, supposed to forget about Fauci's gain of function research, the torturing of beagle puppies and monkey brains, and all. We're just supposed to forget about that. Somebody else who has not faced consequences that should. Rittenhouse is on trial. I can think of at least 5, maybe 10. If you give me enough time, I can probably list out 50 people who should be under scrutiny and on trial the way Kyle Rittenhouse is. Anyways, the trucking industry is under attack. Why, you ask? Because there's too many white people that drive 18-wheelers.
You here, I have to tell you, my brother is a truck driver, and he drives across the country, and it's very nerve-wracking to me when he's on the road because it feels like a dangerous industry. But you're trying to disrupt that and bring more people who look like us to the industry. Tell us why.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, thank you for having me this morning. And yes, we are. And we say we're not building truck drivers, but safe CMV operators, folks that can get back to their home whenever they're done with their shift. That's the most important part, ma'am.
Well, how can the industry be more welcoming? Because I have to tell you, I talked to a lot of truck drivers and preparing for this segment, and most of these truck drivers are people of color, and they talked about, hearing some of the racism over the CB. This is, again, an industry populated by a lot of white men over the age of 55. This group of people overwhelmingly voted for Trump. Some people have talked about, aggressive truck drivers cutting them off or not being helpful. So obviously, the more populated it is with people of color, I think you'll see less of that. But how can you encourage people to come and disrupt this space when it seems a bit unwelcoming?
How do you not laugh? You have to laugh sometimes or you'll go crazy. You'll go absolutely insane. Now, MSNBC is getting progressively worse by the day. This is the easiest content I can cover. The lowest of the low-hanging fruit comes from MSNBC, and it's from segments like this where they just look with a straight face into the camera and lie. I have family members that are truck drivers, never once heard about racism over the CB radio. Not to say that people don't make jokes over the CB radio, but again, going back to why Black people need a day off after the Rittenhouse verdict, are we that frail and fragile that we can't deal with jokes or people saying stuff we don't like? What control do you have over people saying stuff you don't like? Just as a side question, what control do you have over what comes out of someone else's mouth? We can go back to the serenity prayer. The wisdom to know the difference of things that you can and cannot control will ultimately lead you to living a happy life or a miserable life. Things you can't control, what people say, what people think, what's in their heart, the decisions they make. You can't control them. Coincidentally, that's why they're trying to control all those things. And they're constantly frustrated because they can't, wanting to control your speech, what you say, the pronouns you announce, you call them, and all that stupid stuff. But this right here is so stupid. Attacking the trucking industry because it's too white. You mean the people who deliver groceries to stores? Truck drivers should collectively boycott delivering to areas where elites live. If I were an Amazon driver and I knew that packages were to be delivered in the Hamptons or so, I would boycott. I would encourage employees to boycott. They keep taking dumps on the working class, the people that make this country work, the people that they would not be able to function without, the people that deliver mail, the people that fix electrical problems, the plumbing, the people who pick up the trash, the people that serve and protect. Those people are just nothing to them. You're nothing to them. And they're injecting, they're shoehorning racism and white supremacy wherever they can. While we're dealing with shortages on the shelves, let's go ahead and bash truck drivers. That's the problem. There's too many white people driving trucks. Who thinks of this? Honestly, who thinks of this? Insanity. But that's MSNBC. There are people consuming this low IQ trash on a daily basis. Nobody with a functioning brain can like watch this stuff and take it in like, yep, this seems really truthful and accurate and not completely unhinged. They're worse than CNN. Worse. MSNBC, just from a unhinged, completely divorced from reality propaganda standpoint, they're way worse. They are. They just are. There are more clips coming out of MSNBC lately to drive the racist narrative than ever before. They know that they're losing grip of the narrative. They know that if more people tune them out, they'll start to see what's really going on. And so they just triple down. They infinity down on this kind of stuff. That's why they're not playing clips of the Rittenhouse. They didn't play any clips of the Rittenhouse defense, only the prosecution. That's why. This is exactly why. So trucking industry populated by too many white dudes over the age of 55. And we need more people of color in that industry to make all the racism stop. We need less white people to make the racism stop because only those people can be racist. The rest of us are just Puritans. You notice how they think that there's a difference between saying people of color and colored people? I'm baffled that people say people of color and they think that it's a difference between saying colored people. And they call this judge racist, but just completely ignore whatever, Joe Biden, all the stuff going on. It's just all phony. It's also phony, you guys. So, yeah, what else? There's got to be something else that I need to cover. Oh, yeah. Kamala. She is supposedly, I mean, rumor has it, she's on her way out. I don't think it's necessarily anything to celebrate. I mean, she's the VP. It's a pretty insignificant role. She's just she was basically put there as is somebody that would replace Joe Biden. Joe Biden's just the placeholder. They put her there because she is a brown face. That's why. That's why she got where she is, because she's a brown face. I mean, if you think about it, they could have chosen another VP that was more likable, less cringe. I mean, she literally had to hire personality coaches to make her more relatable and likable. That's how unrelatable and unlikable she is. When you think about Kamala Harris, I'm only saying it because it's true. I mean, the polling numbers show it too. When you think about her, the word un comes up. Un. She is unqualified, unlikable, unrelatable, unimportant, uninspiring, unimpressive, and at times unhinged. But she is uniquely unlikable, unpopular. It's not my opinion. It's what the reality is. That's why she had to hire personality coaches. So is she on her way out? Maybe. I guess we'll see. I think it seems to me like a controlled burn, because if you look at what just happened in November, you had the backlash, the Republican wave in Virginia. Democrats lost seats that they were not expecting. They thought was safe. New Jersey was closer than they expected. And it spelled doom for the midterms. I don't know how they didn't see that before, but that's how much self-awareness they completely lack. But That was a huge wake-up call for them, on top of the poll numbers for both Biden and Kamala. And we all know that midterm elections tend to be a referendum on the current political party in office, specifically the Oval Office. That would be Hunter Biden's dad and Kamala. And with their polling numbers so low, the fact that you had a red wave in a blue state, and we're heading into midterms with inflation, gas prices, labor shortages, food shortages, declining infrastructure. The guy can't talk. He doesn't know what he's saying. They needed a replacement for him. They thought that she would be it, so they shoehorned her in. That's why he chose her. He even said, it's Joe Biden's own words, that he was going to choose a black woman to be VP. Not the most qualified person, a black woman. So he chose her. He could have chose somebody else. So now that they are coming to the realization that she is not popular, they got to create some drama and some, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Make it a soap opera type situation. And maybe she's going to not be the vice president anymore. Does that mean Pete Buttigieg is going to leapfrog her? I don't know. Are they going to find somebody else? They got to find somebody else to help them regain some kind of momentum, which I don't think they had from the get-go. So regain is not the right word. For them to try to gain some kind of traction going into 2022. I think that is the long game, to find somebody to replace Joe Biden. Joe Biden's not making it to 2024. I don't know. I'm not saying that there's going to be something that happens to him. I'm just saying, like, mentally, I don't see him making it to 2024. It's hard to see him making it to this time next year, mentally, cognitively. Got to say that, because you never know. The feds could be watching. They're watching me. They're not watching, people making threats and all that stuff. They're going after journalists and Project Veritas and just parents and people that do not support the regime in power. So I have to say that, give that disclaimer. Doesn't seem like Joe Biden is going to make it mentally. She's not popular. So who are they going to replace her with? This is not a story that I'm following, by the way. I just saw it circulating, and it just kind of coincides with what we just saw with that election at the beginning of November and the poll numbers, and the fact that she is not very good in public interaction. She cackles. She makes people's skin crawl when she talks. She just seems so out of touch that she cannot seem to interact with people in a normal way, to the point where she needs coaches. Talks to little kids like they're 5 years old, when they're like at least 10 to 15 years old. She talked to them. Remember when she's talking about space exploration? She talked to them like they were toddlers. Anyway, that's everything, you guys. I'm going to now just kind of hit the refresh and see if there might be a verdict. And I'm going to read some comments too. Yeah, there's nothing going on yet. I assume that once the verdict is out, we're going to hear about it. It's be something that you couldn't ignore if you wanted to. But I'm really hoping it's going to be today, so we can know what's going to happen. But I appreciate everybody for being here today. Please, if you would, give it a thumbs up if you haven't already. Someone said she talks to adults like that too. Yeah, that's true. She does. Someone said, holy crap, another delay in the trial. What's the delay now? Someone tell me what the delay is in the trial. I don't see anything that... I don't really know what's going on, honestly, other than they've been in deliberation for more than 24 hours. Oh, the QAnon shaman sentenced to 41 months for involvement in U.S. Capitol insurrection. The QAnon shaman. There was a picture of me on CNN sitting next to that guy, which is crazy because this was like 2 days before January 6th. I saw him in Georgia at the Trump rally. We were sitting outside waiting for the gates to open up so we could go in and set up our camera equipment and everything. And he was standing right next to me, dressed like that. I had no idea who he was. I'm like, that's an interesting dude. It doesn't look like he's here for the rally. There was something off about him. But it's just very interesting because they used that photo, put it on CNN. And so I had people reaching out to me like, were you in DC on January 6th? It's like, no, that photo was taken like 3 days before anything happened in DC. But yeah, 41 months. I guess he, I don't know if that's a plea deal or what, but I don't know. Tough situation. CNN is talking about January 6th all day. Here we go. Rittenhouse trial. See, it's hard to know where you're going to get the best info from. There's a handful of people that I will follow and, trust what information they're putting out. But if you just try to cross-reference it with mainstream and make it seem like something totally different. And they hate this judge. Boy, do they hate this judge. Anyway. Mike, did you hear about 2 of the men found guilty of the 1965 assassination of Malcolm X are expected to be exonerated on Thursday after a 22-month investigation? No, I did not hear about that. Send me an article. That's kind of interesting. Gotta go, Mike. Thank you, everyone. Good talking to you. See you later, Jason. My Twitter account was permanently or temporarily suspended because I called Kyle Rittenhouse a hero. Think about how desperate they are to keep control of this narrative that he is a white supremacist domestic terrorist that gunned down innocent BLM protesters. How many people don't know that one of the people that tried to kill Kyle Rittenhouse was a convicted pedophile? 11 counts of molesting children and tried to kill Kyle Rittenhouse and also said the N-word. You got to love how the prosecutor listed out all the things that he did, left that part of it out, the worst part about who he was, listed out everything else, but then tried to downplay. Oh, he said some bad words. He said the N-word. Way to downplay. You would think people who are paying attention would catch that. But that just tells you they must not be paying attention. If they're defending him, calling him a victim. And the other 2 guys weren't saints either. This is what they always do. From Kyle Rittenhouse to the McCloskeys to Nick Sandman to people that went to the Capitol, people that even stood outside of the Capitol. This is what they do. The media has the power to make the enemy look like the good guy and the good guy look like the enemy. And that's exactly what they've done. Chris Christie is planning on running for the Oval Office again. I mean, that's a non-story. I mean, it's just when someone plans to run for president or any office in it's so clear that they have zero shot. It's just them trying to fundraise. That's all it is. That's the reason why people stay in races for so long. It's so that they can fundraise. That's exactly what Elizabeth Warren was doing. Elizabeth Warren had no shot at the nomination, but she stayed in that race for so long. Remember the Democrat primaries? She stayed in there for so long. We all knew it was going to be Bernie and probably Biden because he was the most establishment guy there. But she still had Elizabeth Warren hanging on because she was fundraising. It's called grifting. So that's what Chris Christie is doing. That's probably what Lisa Murkowski is doing. That's what Liz Cheney is doing. They know they're not getting reelected. They know how unpopular they are. They know that they committed career suicide. They don't care. Especially someone like Murkowski. She's been in there for how long? So she's like, well, on my way out, let me just let me just string people along a little bit longer, make a little bit more money, and then call it a career. BLM is standing outside of the courthouse chanting Black Lives Matter. Why? No Black lives were killed. These people are just looking for attention and monetary gain. Well, a lot of them have been misled. A lot of them don't know that there were no Black people harmed in this trial. Like I said, they sprinkled the element of white supremacy on the Rittenhouse trial so that Black people would be invested, so that ultimately Black people would go out and loot and riot and destroy their own community and say white supremacy prevailed again. This is racial injustice. He was only there to kill people that are your allies, your white allies, even though one of them was shouting the N-word. But that's neither here nor there. They've been severely misled. And some of them, of course, are LARPing. For sure. We know that. Don't be surprised if you see a pallet of bricks just magically show up. Marxism thrives on chaos. Fact check true. Truck drivers are racist. They sure are. The people that deliver your groceries, it's crazy how they bash and hate on the people that keep the country growing. There's a lot of Hispanic truck drivers. There's a lot of Black truck drivers. They're demonizing white truck drivers. They demonize the middle of the country, the breadbasket, farmers. They hate farmers. People that feed you. Really? People that grow the food and deliver it and transport it, make sure it's on the store shelves. People are so spoiled rotten in their luxury and abundance that they don't even think how that food got there. Then you got the elitist, pompous assholes on MSNBC bashing the truck drivers that deliver it. Didn't Christie just write a book as well? Don't know, don't care. I could care less about that guy. What else? Steve Bannon indicted. I mean, I think he's not in a jail cell. He's not in Gitmo. I think he was like staying in a hotel or something. The vast majority of activists who took part during the Kenosha riots were white leftist males. Exactly. It's so true. They have inserted white supremacy where none exists. Here, let's do a little exercise. Let's just see if we type in white, whoops, it's been winter, white supremacy. If we just type in white supremacy and click news, what's in the news of white supremacy today? New Jersey white supremacist sentenced for planning vandalism attack on synagogues. Jen Psaki sighs as Fox reporter asked why Biden suggested Kyle Rittenhouse was a white supremacist. That's from yesterday. So a majority of it is about Jen Psaki trying to evade the question of why Joe Biden called Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist. Why did Chunk Yogurt of the Young Turks call Kyle Rittenhouse deeply racist? How does he know that? He doesn't know that. He's just spewing nonsense and lies. He's just towing a line to keep a narrative going. Why did they stage fake white nationalists at a Glenn Youngkin rally? Will we ever know why they did that? Why do they have to fake it? Why do you have hate crime hoaxes? White supremacist movement expert pressed by defendants during rally trial. White supremacist great replacement theory has deep roots as of 2 days ago. It's a constant thing. They'll never let it die. They'll never let it die. You know what else? While I'm thinking about it, this isn't the only trial going on this week. The Ghislaine Maxwell trial. Very interesting. Not getting a lot of coverage It's been pretty much buried under this trial. I would think that that is probably just as important. This one is important with Rittenhouse, of course, because self-defense, your right to defend yourself, your gun rights, the right to a fair trial that's not tampered with, mob rule, all of that is at play with the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. But what about the woman that helped industrial level human trafficking take place all around the world? She helped facilitate and procure young underage girls that our former president, Bill Clinton, flew to an island to mingle with. That's the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. What's going to happen with that? I really don't know. I guess we got to wait and see, huh? Is there any news on that? How do you spell her name? Ghislaine Maxwell. Here we go. Auto-populate for the win. Judge vets potential jurors for Ghislaine Maxwell trial. The search for a fair jury for Ghislaine Maxwell. Very interesting. I don't have time to deep dive into that, but that's a very interesting story right there. Ghislaine Maxwell, security advisor, speaks out. She was the most hunted lady in the U.S., in the world. Yeah, I bet. Anyways, wow, hour and 21 minutes. That's what happens when I don't go live for a couple of days. An hour just flies by. So we're now on to an hour and a half. But I appreciate everybody for being here, tuned in today. If you haven't, again, please give it a thumbs up. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this stream for today. But thank you all for your support. Thank you all for your prayers. Thank you all for your continued, engagement in videos. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Please give it a thumbs up. Like and share. If you're new, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss a live stream. I will be back tomorrow. I will be back maybe even as soon as there is news on this Rittenhouse verdict, which hopefully is today. I really hope that it's today. I hope they don't drag it out. If they drag it out any longer, then I'm thinking that they're waiting for the weekend so that riots and chaos can really kick off. That's what I'm wondering. I don't know. I don't want to be like super conspiratorial on it, but I just think that there are certain people with a vested interest in riots, which is why they're constantly fanning the flames and inserting race where it doesn't exist. They want this. They want the chaos. So appreciate you all for tuning in. God bless you. I will catch you in the next stream.